राय शिव दुष्मेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय गोपेश्वराय शिव गोपेश्वराय गोपेश्वराय शिव गोपेश्वराय जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव 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 श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव 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 श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव हे राम नारायण वासुदेव हे श्याम नारायण वासुदेव हे राम नारायण वासुदेव हे श्याम नारायण वासुदेव हे राम नारायण वासुदेव हे श्याम नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव, 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 हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्री कृष्ण हरे मुरारी, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव, श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव, श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव, श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारी, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेव।
I request you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath in. And slowly let it go. And we'll start with just making the sound of So the sound of all together. Once again. Continue on your own. We'll just chant Om Namah Shivaya 3 times. Om Namah Shivaya. 2 more times. Om Namah Shivaya. Last time. Namah Shivaya.
Welcome to satsang. Is it possible to become enlightened overnight? Assuming you're awake in the night. Yes. Not if you're asleep dreaming in your bed, but if you are awake, then sure, why not? There's no sense of the day, the night. And yes, there are auspicious times. We talk about Brahma Muhurt, that early morning hour. But remember that enlightenment is going back to the truth of yourself. So in terms of it happening overnight, of course. Can you become an expert physicist overnight with no background in physics at all? No. Can you become an expert in anything that you have no background or experience in at all overnight? Of course not, because you're learning something brand new. While physics certainly works in my body, I am subject to laws of physics. Physics is not the truth of who I am. Learning equations of mass and velocity is not something that is already embedded in my consciousness. It's something that some scientist somewhere at some point figured out and now they get passed down. But enlightenment is not about something from outside. It's not about learning something new. It's not about developing something. It's not about getting six-pack abs or learning how to sprint. Enlightenment is simply about removing the darkness of the ignorance of who you are. That's all it is. Can it happen overnight? Absolutely. Can it happen in an instant? Absolutely. That's the power of grace. Now, the issue is that I have to be open to it. Because as we were talking about last night, a lot of times we hold on to our darkness. We hold on to our ignorance. It may seem foolish, but in a lot of cases it's easier to stay rooted in my drama. To stay rooted in, well, this is how I am. I'm just the angry sort. I'm just the impatient sort. I'm just the jealous sort. Yeah, I can't really do any of that spiritual stuff, but hey, no problem. Maybe next life, who knows? It's a lot easier to stay rooted in that than actually to have to face what would life look like if I weren't moving through it with anger. What would my life look like if I moved through it only with love? We did this meditation a few days ago. It's a beautiful one to practice. Just give yourself the opportunity in the morning, in the evening. Morning's best, before you even begin the day, even lying in bed. You don't have to be sitting up in a specific position. Just allow yourself to picture getting up out of bed from a place of love, from a place of truth, from a place of awareness and spaciousness. What would it be like to bathe and not be worried about the conversations I was going to have that day, not to be worried about getting to work on time or late, not to be already thinking about the pile of things I had on my desk, not to be worried about who I was going to please or disappoint, or what was going to be successful, what wasn't? What would it be like to just become one with the water as it pours over me? What would it be like to walk to work or drive to work or be driven to work from a place of light? And as beautiful as it seems, it's important to realize that what that means is, see, enlightenment sounds really good. Yeah, I want to be enlightened. I mean, like, who wouldn't, right? If we say, okay, so all right, raise your hands, going once, going twice, enlightenment in a bottle, right? We'd take it in a second. Enlightenment in a magic wand, and like, yeah. But if what that means is, if I say, okay, count of 3, if you're ready, say yes, and we'll give you the magic wand, we'll give you the magic whatever it is, enlightenment. We think we would all take it. Sounds too good to be true. Why not? Who wouldn't want the light? But if I say to you, remember that as part of this package deal of enlightenment, you no longer get to have that jealousy drama thing going on with the people in your lives. You no longer get to steal other people's work, push people out of the way. You no longer get to walk into a party or a wedding full of that sense of, I am the most beautiful person here, I've got the most expensive clothes. You no longer get to sit around with friends over a cup of tea bad-mouthing others. You no longer get to drown your sorrows or your boredom or your frustration in alcohol or drugs or meaningless sex, shopping therapy. So that package deal of enlightenment requires that we are prepared to give up a lot of what we think we're really attached to. Now, of course, there's no one who's enlightened who actually says, oh my God, I really miss those jealous fits I used to throw. There's no one who's enlightened who says, yeah, God, I really miss what it was like to, eat a whole pizza till I was sick because I was so bored and frustrated. But you have to take that leap. You only know that once you're on the other side. From standing on this side, to take that plunge, to say, all right, enlightenment means I have to let go of that which is keeping me in the dark for a split second before I'm actually aware of the light. And that's what's difficult for some of us. That's what holds a lot of us back. Why don't, if you all move in a little bit this way? Yeah, just then as people come in, it'll make things so much easier. They won't have to crawl over people. Yeah, why don't you move up just a little bit more? Yeah. Great. So we have to be prepared. Enlightenment can happen immediately. You have all you need for it. It's not about learning physics. It's not about learning a dance or a song or a recipe, a skill. It's about fully surrendering all of the darkness, of being fully prepared to say, okay, I am not that which has happened to me. Because of course it also means I no longer get to say, well, the reason I am the way I am is my mom this, my dad that, my uncle this, my stepbrother that, my third grade teacher this. Because all of that is a product of the identification with the body. A product of the identification with my history, with that which is not my true self. So if I'm going to live in enlightenment, in the light, in the truth, it means I have to let go of that which is keeping me in the darkness. And for a lot of us, we're so over-identified with our stories. I am the victim of that. I'm the one to whom that always happens. This is the story of my life. I'm just like that. I'm angry, I'm jealous, I'm depressed, I'm addicted. I'm the one who never succeeds. I'm the one who always succeeds. Because it's not always the negative stuff. Sometimes it's the positive stuff. That's just as much a story. I'm always the one who gets ahead. I'm the richest guy on the block. I'm number one. I'm the most successful. Anything that keeps us rooted in what I'm achieving, what I'm earning, what I'm acquiring. That which is separate from the universe is darkness. Now remember, when we talk about darkness, we don't mean evil, bad, wrong. We just mean it as the opposite of light, the opposite of truth. It's falsehood. So if you're really prepared to take the plunge into enlightenment, to the path of enlightenment, you really have to be prepared to let go of your story. You have to be prepared to not have this cushion to fall back on. Well, if all else fails, I'm the child of an alcoholic. I mean, for God's sakes, what do you expect of me? If all else fails, well, yeah, I was raised in abject poverty. I never had an opportunity. What do you expect of me? We have to be prepared to take that leap. Letting go of all of that. So yes, enlightenment can happen overnight. But only if I'm prepared to leave my baggage at the door. Because that light is a light like this, as in the opposite of darkness, but it's also light as in the opposite of heaviness. I have let go of my baggage. So we have to be prepared for that. So really ask yourself, if you're on a spiritual path where you feel like I'm meditating and it's not happening. Doing my japa, I'm doing my seva, it's not happening. Ask yourself, what is it in me that is so attached to the story of me, that is so attached to the identity of me, the drama of me, that I'm not prepared to let it go? And once you figure that out, then have a beautiful ritual and let it go. Whether it's a yagna, whether it's into Mother Ganga, whether it's any one of innumerable other rituals. But we have to be prepared to let that go. Only then can we really be in the light. Puja Swamiji always says, when you go traveling, right, you're only allowed 3 ounces, 100 milliliters of your liquid. They make you put everything in these tiny, tiny little containers. He says, when you go traveling on an airplane, the more baggage you have, the more troublesome the trip. Like if all you've got to do is walk through security, you've got nothing, it's super easy, no issue. You're first in the line, you're first one out. But the more stuff you've got, more stuff that has to be picked up and put there and taken off and opened, that's when you waste time. It's when you hurt your back. It's when you miss your flight because you're standing there while the guy opens everything. And he always says so beautifully, he says, this is where, for enlightenment, we have to travel lightly. Be prepared to really let that baggage go. And if you insist on taking any of it with you, at least remember just to take a little bit. At least remember that you're only allowed those 3 ounces. More than that or you can't get on the plane. So as you are taking that plunge, that leap into this place, if you find that some baggage is holding you back, figure out, well, all right, how can I distill it to just 3 ounces? Little bit of my identity. Later on, I'll let it go fully, but for right now, all right, 3 ounces. 3 ounces of identity. 3 ounces of ego. 3 ounces of fear. Let the light in enough that you realize I don't even need those 3 ounces. And then you let that go fully. So yeah, can happen overnight. Can happen over a day. But we have to be ready to let go of that which keeps us in the darkness. And that's up to us. and the rest is up to grace, which is always there for us. If our purpose in life is to have that experience of enlightenment, to have that experience of truth, which we know is what our purpose is, it is inconceivable then that grace wouldn't be available for everybody. It's our purpose. It's why we're here. So that grace is there for everyone. But we have to be prepared to just say, okay, I've tried the rest. Now I'm ready. And you're all in the right place. You're on the banks of Ganga. You're in the land of enlightenment. You're in the right place. Now do the work and go within. And let go. Before taking any of the other questions from in advance, I'm happy to take any questions if anyone here has any. Yes.
In relation to what you were just saying about letting things go, if you had something that you knew you needed to forgive yourself for doing or saying, how do you know? How do you know that you've actually done it?
How do you know that you've forgiven yourself?
How do you know?
When we carry around guilt, it's a weight that prevents us from moving through our world freely. It's like saying, how do I know if I've taken off this 200-pound backpack? Well, if you don't know, you haven't taken it off. If you've been carrying around a 200-pound backpack and you take it off, you know. There is a feeling in the being that goes, oh my God. You feel almost like you are flying, literally, where there was this weight. Now there is freedom. And guilt is a weight. Regret is not. Now here's an important distinction. Forgiving myself does not mean I don't carry the lesson. Forgiving myself doesn't mean that I go back to exactly who I was, how I was before I made that mistake. Regret is actually, I think, a good thing. Because regret is that little voice that says, I acted not in line with my highest self. And it makes us a little bit more vigilant. If I'm cooking and I burn myself because I forgot that the steel handle of a steel pot gets hot. I'm used to a rubber handle. Now I have a steel pot and the steel handle gets hot and I grab it once and it burns my palm. Well, even once the palm has healed, that memory of burning it is still there. Which is actually good because it's going to prevent me from grabbing that steel handle again. Every time I go to grab it, something in my head is going to go, no, it's hot. In the same way, when I act out of ego, when I act out of ignorance, and I regret it, I say something that hurts someone, I do something that hurts someone, do something or say something that hurts myself, that changes my life in a way that I would, should I have a magic wand, prefer that it hadn't been changed. That regret is this dormant awareness within me that arises and wakes up only when I'm about to make the same mistake again. So my regret at grabbing the handle doesn't bother me when I'm sitting at my computer working. It doesn't bother me when I'm meditating. It doesn't bother me when I'm taking a walk. It only comes up when I'm in the kitchen about to grab that handle again. Guilt, on the other hand, guilt is that 200-pound backpack. Guilt is that sense not of, I grabbed the handle. Not of, I didn't act in alignment with my highest self. Guilt is, you are stupid. You are bad. You are full of ego. You are in illusion. You are dark. That's guilt and shame. They're pervasive. Repentance is about the act. Made a mistake, repent, regret doing that act. Guilt and shame are pervasive about who I am as a being. You are wrong. You are worthless. You are stupid. You don't deserve happiness, goodness, freedom, enlightenment, love. So you know that you've forgiven, meaning that you've let go of the guilt, when suddenly you no longer feel like you're walking around with a 200-pound backpack. When suddenly there literally is a lightness of being. But personally, I'm not in favor of the forgive and forget model. I'm in favor of the forgive and move forward model. But I think that having an awareness, whether it's of what someone else did or what you have done, actually serves us. Because they're lessons. So if someone betrayed me in the past, lied to me in the past, cheated me in the past, yes, by all means I should forgive them. I should move forward. But I may not necessarily want to go into business with them again. I may not necessarily want to forget that this is a person who forged my name on documents. Or this is a person who took my ATM card and, emptied out my bank account. Those may be important things to remember, even though you're no longer harboring anger and grudges. And in the same way for yourself, if you know, I gave in to lust, to greed, to ego, whatever it is, because the truth is, even though the mistakes that we make in our life are all a mixture of the same ingredients, we all have slightly different proportions, right? So, it's like in India, if I took all of the people sitting here, all of the Indians sitting here who cook Indian food, maybe even some of the Westerners cook Indian food, and I said, okay, you have to cook one dal. They'd all use pretty much the same ingredients, even the same spices pretty much. Everybody would use a little bit of cumin, everybody would use probably some coriander, they'd all use some turmeric, they'd all use some salt, maybe a little bit of some other spices, some chili. But each of them would actually taste slightly different because everyone does masala a little bit different. Somebody's going to have a little more cumin. Somebody's going to have a little bit more turmeric. Somebody's going to have a little bit more salt. Somebody will have a little more chili. Now, in the same way, that ego, false self, false identity of each of us is made up of slightly different proportions of the same stuff. So for some of us, it's more about fear, for example, than about desire. Or it's more about greed than it is about lust. Or it's more about whatever it may be. We all have different experiences. We all have different sanskaras. And it's good to know that my mistakes in general tend to be in line with forgetting the truth of who I am in favor of grabbing and grasping. Or forgetting the truth of who I am in favor of cowering and hiding in a corner. Or forgetting who I am in favor of sensual desires and lust. Or forgetting who I am in anger, violence, whatever it may be. But that's actually an important, valuable thing to know about yourself. So you forgive yourself for the same reason that you forgive others. Really, for one reason and one reason only. Because you deserve to be free. I'm not saying what you did was right. I don't know what you did. Doesn't matter what you did. Regardless of what you did, you deserve to be free. Regardless of what anyone has done to you, you deserve to be free. However badly someone has cheated you, abused you, harmed you, betrayed you, lied to you, abandoned you, whatever they've done, you deserve to be free. They've done what they're going to do. That's their karmic package they've got to work out. In the same way that whatever the karmic fruit of what you've done is already bearing fruit in various ways in your life. But regardless of the karmic fruit and the repercussions and how it's happening in your life, you deserve ultimate freedom. Freedom of enlightenment, freedom of living as the true self. Freedom to be who you really are. But if you're holding a grudge against someone, if you're angry at someone, if you identify as the victim of something someone else has done, and that someone else might be God. It's not always a person. A lot of times we hold grudges against God. How dare you take my parents when I was so young, or take a parent when I was so young? How dare you take my child? How dare you take my husband, my wife, my sister, my brother? So whoever the grudge is against, a living being, a no longer living being, the universe, as long as I'm holding that grudge, I'm not free. And as long as I'm holding that grudge, I don't even have a chance to be free. Because here is the language of the grudge. Because of you, I am miserable today. Which means I don't have the possibility for joy. I cannot rewind my life. I cannot make you have not cheated me, lied to me, abused me, betrayed me, stolen my parent, stolen my child, stolen my sibling. And so if I can't let it go, I have no possibility for freedom, for love, for joy, for peace. Because the identity of that grudge is, I am who I am because of you. And that's true whether it's an internal suffering, a depression, a misery, an addiction, or whether it's an external situation. I'm homeless because of you. I'm handicapped because of you. Whatever it may be. That grudge binds me to an identity from which there is no escape. And this is why we let go. Because regardless of what's happened to us, we deserve freedom. And regardless of what has happened to us, freedom is our birthright and we can have it now. If we want it. And it doesn't matter how horrible what has happened to us has been. It doesn't matter how horrible what we've done has been. We may find ourselves in jail. I'm not saying you deserve to be free. I mean, you do something that's against the law, you commit a horrible crime. All right, they're going to throw you in jail. But even in jail, you deserve to be free internally. They lock up your body because it's the rules of the land. But that doesn't mean that you don't deserve the ultimate freedom of the self. And so we forgive. Again, even if what someone has done was a horrible crime and really they should have been arrested and thrown in jail for it. Our forgiveness is not saying what they did to us is okay or what we've done is okay. It simply says, I deserve to be free. I deserve to live in joy, in peace, in love. And regardless of what someone has done to me, if I'm not living in freedom today, it's because of me. They may have hurt me once, or maybe they hurt me repeatedly for decades. But if I'm still hurting now, it's because of me. I've carried that into today. And that's my choice. Which means there's an alternative. I may not have had an alternative when they actually were abusing me. I may not have had an alternative when they actually cheated me. But I have an alternative now about cheating myself. I have an alternative now about abusing myself. And by binding myself to someone else's sins of the past, or even my own sins of the past, I am responsible for carrying that sin into today. And so we forgive. And if it's something someone else did to us, we forgive while holding the lesson. And if it's something we did, we forgive while holding that lesson and the flavor of regret. Simply to be there in the background, such that we don't do it again. But not something that binds us to it. Not something that's pervasive about who we are. But simply an awareness, oh yeah, I've got that weakness. Oh yeah. You know, it's like if I tried to pick up a big thing of boiling water and dropped it because it was too heavy. I didn't realize quite how heavy it was going to be. Well, again, that slight regret reminds me, oh yeah, I'm not quite as strong as I think I am. A massive vat of boiling water is actually really heavy. I need to ask for help. I need to get someone else to lift it. I need to split it into 3 containers before I lift it, whatever it may be. But I need to avoid dropping a vat of boiling water again. In the same way, I need to avoid stepping into that trap of ego, of anger, of lust, of greed again. So it's okay to hold that little bit of regret. But make sure to let 100% of the guilt go. And if you feel like there's still any remnants left, go have a good bath in Ganga. Let her wash away the rest. Are there any other questions? Yes, these two. You and then the woman in the back. Yeah.
So, does the clothes matter for the sexuality?
Does the clothes matter? You mean like wearing saffron robes?
Any kind of clothes.
So, do our clothes matter for spirituality? No. You can be enlightened naked. You can be enlightened in a pair of jeans and a tank top. You can be enlightened in a suit and tie. You can be enlightened in an evening dress. You can be enlightened in saffron robes. However, here's what matters. What matters is how I identify. Because our clothes make a statement about us. Every time I put on a pair of clothes, I'm making a choice, right? I mean, there is almost an infinite number of options of clothes I could wear. I mean, just take me as a female, for example. Almost an infinite number of options of clothes. Could begin with the pants option. Well, they could go from really tight jeans to really loose, baggy pants, everything in between. Go to the skirt option. It can be long and flowing. It could be a mini skirt. It can be tight. Again, infinite options. Come to the top, loose flowing blouse, short t-shirt, tank top, whatever it may be. Again, infinite options. And then, of course, dresses and robes. I mean, my God, how many different options we have. But I can only wear one thing at a time, which means I have to make a choice. And that choice is made by the part of my mind that says, this is who I am. This is how I identify. This is what I feel comfortable in, not just physically, but how you feel comfortable otherwise. I'll tell you a personal story. December of 1999. I officially took sannyas in Jan of 2000. December of 99, I was back in, maybe it was 98. I take it, it's either 98 or 99. I was back in Los Angeles at my parents' house. Now, from the beginning, when I came here, Puja Swamiji always told me, when you go back to LA, do what your parents want. Like, as hard, it's already so hard for them that you've left California, you've come to India, you've joined an ashram. Come say come. If they don't want to, you to walk out on the streets of LA with them in a sari, wear what they want you to wear, at least move slowly with them. So in the early days, I would wear long skirts or, loose tops, things like that felt to me like Maryada, but felt to my parents like people aren't staring at us on the street. So, December of either 98 or 99, I was back in Los Angeles, and it was the Christmas holidays. And my parents decided to have a party. Because I was home, and they'd invite their friends, and okay. So, my mom comes home the day of the party, and I hadn't even thought about what I was going to wear to the party. Basically, in those days, I was wearing either long skirts and long, loose tops, or mostly I would wear like salwar kameez, that type of thing. But for fancy occasions, even in America, I would wear a sari. So in my mind, I think, planning to wear a sari, but I hadn't much thought of it. So my mom comes home that day, and she says, "Great news, guess what? Best news, I found the most perfect dress for you for the party." I say, "Oh, okay." She says, "You're going to love it." She says, "It goes all the way down to your ankles, all the way to your wrists. Everything is covered," which is not very usual for LA, right? I mean, LA is, sort of a different type of style. As much as you can show, you show. So she says, "You're going to love it. Everything is covered. Your arms, your legs, whole body, totally covered." Say, "Okay, let's see it." So she pulls out a box from a very fancy, very expensive, well-known store in Los Angeles. And she pulls it out. Now, first, it is black. December evening wear, right? What color is it? Black, always. So I put it on, and she's right in the letter of the law that it does cover everything, but here's what the dress looked like. It did come to the ankles, and the legs part was flowing, but from the hips up, it looked like someone had taken a paintbrush with black paint and had simply painted my naked body. It was that tight. It was basically like a leotard, like a, to the skin, painted on type of thing. And yeah, it went down to here, but literally it was just like black paint, basically. So I put it on, and I can feel that I'm about to burst into tears. And so I start telling myself, it's only my body, it's not my soul. It's only my body, it's not my soul. It's only my body, it's not my soul. Right? I mean, I'm just trying to make my parents happy. I'm trying to do what my guru has said, keep them happy. It's only the body, it's not the soul. It's only the body, it's not the soul. And I'm chanting my mantra, and I'm just trying to hold it together. And of course, my mom is saying, "What's the matter? It's beautiful, my God," right? I mean, she's a mother. You're gorgeous. It's beautiful. It looks perfect. What's your problem? And I can feel the tears in my eyes. She says, "Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. You're going to love it." So I open my eyes, and I look in the mirror, and suddenly, I just burst into tears. So my mom says, "What is the problem?" And I say, "Look," I said, "if you want to go downstairs," because the party was going to be at our house in the ground floor. I said, "So if you want to go downstairs and you want to tell your friends a lie about who your daughter is and what her life is about, that is really fine with me. I am very happy to stay upstairs meditate, do japa, do my work, and you can go downstairs to the party and you can tell your friends a lie about who your daughter is. But if you want me to actually come to the party and speak the truth, I cannot speak the truth and wear a lie. And this dress is a lie. It's a lie about who I am. It's a lie about what my life is. And so she says, fine, wear a sari. And that was the very last conversation I ever had with my parents about what I was going to wear anywhere. But I share the story with you because in theory, they're just clothes, right? In those days I was wearing white, so white sari, black skin-tight dress. Like, why should it matter, right? But it does matter. And it matters not for the state of my consciousness, but it matters for that which I'm projecting to the world. And when you look in the mirror and you see yourself in a skin-tight black dress, there's an identity that goes along with that that's very different than when you look in the mirror and you see yourself in a white sari. And that's where our clothes matter. Because the question is, what do I identify as? So that's the aspect that matters. What are the choices I'm making and why am I making them? What matters to me? What am I projecting to the world? What's my identification? For example, why do we even put tilak on? Well, there's a lot of meanings. I won't go into all of it. But one of the aspects of putting on tilak is we put it on after we do our morning prayers. Right? You have a shower, get up, pray, you're getting ready to go out, you get ready, you put on your tilak. It's a reminder. I'm a spiritual being. When you feel it on you, when you pass a mirror, you pass a window, you see the tilak on, it's a reminder, oh yeah, I'm a spiritual person. Chances are, I've never been to a bar in India, but I would imagine that if you walked in, there probably wouldn't be a lot of people sitting at the bar wearing tilak. Why? Because in general, people who self-identify as spiritual people are not necessarily people who are going to walk into a bar and sit down and drown their sorrows in alcohol. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't people who go to temple on holidays and find themselves in a bar on a Friday night. But that daily choice of making tilak lagane wale, it's an identity. I don't need to be wearing tilak to connect with God. God doesn't care. God doesn't say pale lagao. Grace doesn't care. It's not you sit down to do puja and murti se avasa ke ki tilak laga ke aao. But how I feel is different. How you move through the world is different. And you know what? Run an experiment. I'm a science person at heart. Run an experiment. For 2 weeks. Wear dhoti kurta or tilak laga. Every day. Dhoti kurta tilak. Then for the next 2 weeks, wear jeans and a t-shirt. And just see how you feel moving through the world different. And you'll notice a difference. It's not about the power of your meditation, but it's about an alignment as you move through the world. How, as I'm moving through the world, am I in alignment with truth? The truth of who I am. Is the truth of who I am someone who wants you to look at my bust to waist to hips ratio? If it is, well then I'm going to wear clothes that make sure that you notice my bust to waist to hips ratio. And that's not bad or good. By the way, there's no value judgment here. There is nothing wrong with black dresses that look like they've been painted on. It's just not me. So this is not about good or bad, wrong or right. It's about truth of you. And so clothes matter in terms of how you identify. And keeping you in alignment with that. And the last piece of this, because one of the core pieces of spirituality and of satsang is, well, all right, what does that mean as I move through the world? The clothing industry, the fashion industry, is one of the most harmful industries to our planet in terms of natural resources, in terms of waste. I forget the actual numbers, but I was at an entrepreneurial summit a couple of years ago, a massive summit at this women's event, and there was a woman speaking who was the head of this big fashion industry that was all about conscious fashion. And she showed this whole PowerPoint about the waste, the landfill of clothes. Because we buy them, we wear them once or twice, and we throw them away. About the impact on the land and the water of the chemical dyes that are being used in our clothes. I mean, it's horrendous, and it was something that I had never thought of. About the chemicals that are being used in the farms to grow the non-organic cotton. The industries making the synthetics. It's a huge, massive, massive contributor to the destruction of the environment and the pollution of the planet. And so, as we root ourselves in this fashion world, gotta have something new, gotta project my body, gotta have the most fashionable thing, whatever is hot this season. Well, the interaction of that with spirituality says, I don't need to have what's new this season. If what I had from last season still fits and is good, I'm going to wear that. Because I don't need something new in order to feel good about myself. I don't need something new in order to feel beautiful and valuable and worthy walking out of my house to work or to a wedding. I don't feel ashamed wearing the same sari to a wedding in October that I wore to a wedding in September. I don't need to buy a brand new sari for every single wedding there is this season. And then, of course, change it 4 times a day because of the different events that they have for the wedding. I'm grounded and rooted enough in my own spirituality and my own value as a being that I don't need to wear clothes to make you approve of me. And so not only is that good for me, good for my pocketbook, but it's also really good for the planet. And when I start to make choices more from a place of compassion than from a place of fashion, then not only is it good for the planet, but I then start to identify as someone who moves through the world with compassion. And rather than my whole identity being, oh, I'm the fashion one, my identity becomes I'm the compassionate one. Which then, of course, changes how I interact with the world. So our spirituality is interwoven with it only in that way. Otherwise, you can meditate in anything, you can be enlightened in anything. But as long as we still have any kind of identity that we're moving through the world with, our clothes are important. And as long as we care about the planet we live on, clothes are important. Because of course, if I don't need to buy 10 brand new things every season, I can spend a little bit more and make sure that what I'm buying is made out of organic cotton. Or that it's fair trade, or that it's made from organic dyes and natural dyes rather than chemical dyes, or all of those things. I've got a lot more options than just more for cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. You had a question in the back. Yeah. And we'll end with your question.
Okay, thank you. Talking of stories that we identify with, one of the things that I've noticed is stories come in various hues. There are those that are very superficial and can be addressed with ease.
Yes.
With a little bit of presence and awareness, you're able to overcome the challenges that are associated with such stories and samskars. And then there are those that are deeply etched,
Yes.
burned into your mind,
Yes.
and have taken time to form,
Yes.
much more difficult to address. And I'm asking this question on behalf of my son,
Okay.
who's dealing with some of these challenges.
Okay.
Incidentally, he's back in North Carolina. And do you have any recommendations in terms of how one would address
Sure.
the more deeply etched ones?
So our stories hold us back. Whether they are superficial level ones or very deep ones. Either way, we need to let them go. But as you said, the ones on the surface are easier to let go than the deep ones. Here's a beautiful practice. Let him start to figure out, who would I be without my story? So for example, let's say that as a child I was horribly abused, and I then went on and I became a drug addict and an alcoholic. And in my drug and alcohol addiction and abuse, I lived on the streets and I stole and I robbed and I mugged people and I did horrible things, and then I went to jail. Now I'm out of jail. Okay, that's a big story. Deep story. Childhood abuse. Shame of addiction. Shame of the crime. Whole identity. Nonetheless, in order for it not to keep impacting us, what we need to do is figure out, who am I without it? Because the dilemma becomes, if I've spent years of my life, 5, 10, 15, 50, identifying as the one who was abused, identifying as the alcoholic, identifying as the criminal, That's what I do. That's what I think about. So if I'm an alcoholic, for example, I think about getting drunk, or I think about not getting drunk. Either way, getting drunk is what I'm thinking about, whether planning to do it, wanting to do it, or trying not to do it. What we need to do is figure out, who would I be without this story? And really develop. It's more of a visualization than a meditation. A practice of closing our eyes meditatively, getting into a very grounded state of meditation, and actually allowing ourselves to conjure up, what would it be like to get out of bed, not as the one who was abused, not as an alcoholic? What would I think about? What would I do? Who would I be calling on the phone? Where would I go? Because one of the things that keeps us falling back into it, whether it's patterns in our mind or habits in our life, is, I don't know another way of being. This is why people get out of rehab and they go right back to it. People get out of jail, they go right back to it. It's all we know. That is how I think. It is how I relate to the world. I need to know, who am I if I'm not that? And it's very hard to go straight from that into just spacious awareness, just spacious consciousness. I mean, ideally, that's the path that you would go. But it's very difficult. It's typically a lot more effective to go into, okay, who else would I be on this plane of reality? What would I think about? It's not just what job would I do. It's not just about where would I volunteer. But it's literally about, what would I think about? Who would my friends be? Where would I go? What books would I read? All of the things that fill our life are part of an identity. And when I'm rooted in a story, it moves through me with the world. If I move through the world as the victim, let's say, well, then I'm expecting wherever I go, so I'm the victim. All right, I'm on my way to work, I'm stuck in a traffic jam. Identity of victim is, oh my God, it always happens to me. And this was the day. This was the day I had to present my project. Now I'm not going to have an opportunity. Now I'm going to get fired. I knew I was going to get fired. That's the victim story. But what if I weren't a victim? What if that weren't my story anymore? The only truth of the situation is I'm stuck in traffic. The rest of it is entire conjecture. What if I went into it with a completely different story? I am a valuable member of our team. I put together a valuable, great proposal. Chances are, if I'm stuck in this traffic jam, lots of other people heading into the office are stuck in the same traffic jam. We all take the same freeway. I've got a mobile, I'll make a call, I'll send a message. They'll reschedule. All right, it'll be a little bit annoying. Maybe it won't be for another couple weeks till I have the opportunity again. Whatever it may be. But I'm a valuable, worthwhile member of this team. I've done good work. You see the two different ways of responding. But we have to learn it and practice. It took a lot of years to develop these core identities we have. They got hammered in and hammered in and hammered in my psyche over and over again. Every choice I made in action, in thought, that was in line with that identity made that sanskara deeper and deeper. I now need to create new sanskaras. Which means I better start creating them as a habit. And we begin with a visualization. All right, how are you going to get out of bed? What are you going to think about? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Who would you be? Ask him to write. Keep a journal. Who would I be if I weren't this? What would my life look like? First, what would my job look like? What would my family life look like? What would my health look like if I weren't that? And then he can ask himself, how do I know that this story I tell myself is true? That's a really powerful question. Because a lot of us tell ourselves a lot of nonsense. Somebody once told us, you are worthless. You're stupid. And I forget somebody even told me that, but I carry that with me as truth in my life. And I recreate it and I self-sabotage because I am worthless. How do I even know that is true? And what would my life be like if it weren't true? But it requires thinking outside the box, a whole new habit of thinking. And you can help him. You can help him by sitting him down, give him these exercises, ask him these questions. Slowly, 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 he can let go, if he wants to. That's the other last piece here. Perhaps the most difficult is we're not in charge of other people's karmic packages. And most of us know someone and love someone who, for whatever reason, is making a choice to stay stuck. Making a choice to stay in identity, in a pattern, in a story that they really could be free of. Doesn't mean that what happened wasn't bad. Doesn't mean they didn't go through something. But that we know they have a choice to move on from. But they don't. And it's so hard because we want to help them. But everyone has to figure out their own karmic packages. And the most you can do is just show him the way. But whether he walks it or not is entirely up to him.